many countries emhlabeni have you ever traveled outside of South Africa because it feels as though we are the bad child emhlabeni ithina senza kakhulu? What has your experience been?
Look, I've traveled to several countries, and it's funny because the people who are in this country as foreigners always say South Africans don't travel. Whereas they don't understand what traveling is. Traveling is when you get a stamp for 30 days, after 30 days you go back to your country. You can't be here for 20 years and tell us that you are traveling. That's not traveling. And then you want to bring your family and they must travel with you in our country with documents that are not proper. Traveling is when you go to another country. First of all, the first thing is you respect their laws, which is why I don't understand and I will never accept that foreigners are not the problem. Because the time you come into someone else's country and you decide to disrespect the laws of the country, whose fault is that? It's also your fault.
Sure.
So you must also take responsibility. So people mustn't make foreign nationals to be these innocent people who just walked. They knew exactly what they were doing when they were overstaying their passports, right? They knew exactly when they were coming in this country and committing crime. They're doing whatever activities, why they are doing that, because they disrespect our country so much. Now, this thing of us having to sit here and label everything is xenophobia. What are we calling people who come into a country illegally and start demanding from those people and that government? What is the name for that? Because that is what the conversation should be about, not xenophobia. Because xenophobia, this is not about feelings here. I don't think any South African sits around and says, oh, I feel hatred. Oh, my God, I feel hatred. We've been living with these people for 32 years. You can't tell us we woke up one morning and decided, oh, we hate them. There's no such thing, and they must stop hiding behind that. Everything that we quote as much and much is the laws of the country. You can't go into a hospital as a foreigner if you do not have documents that allow you to go there. And if you're a foreigner, you're meant to go to a private, this is the one thing that also frustrates me so much. We've got private institutions, private hospitals, private schools, and all of that. But it's South Africans that must take their children to private schools and spend their money, whereas foreigners are enjoying the luxury of public things that are meant for South Africans, that are being paid for by South Africans. Being a foreigner in another country is something that other African countries need to be taught. And that's why we keep telling them to go back to their countries so they can understand what a good neighborly relationship is like. Because you can't come into a country and want to live here and call yourself a neighbor. You are no longer a neighbor. You are creating your own life around us. And South Africans were never consulted, by the way, with this thing of bringing refugees into the country. We were forcefully forced to integrate with people we don't know. And now you can't turn around and blame South Africans for saying, hi, I'm alarmed, it's getting too much for me, I'm overwhelmed, because this is not what I'm used to, this is not my culture. When do you allow South Africans to express themselves freely about how they feel about this invasion that's happening in our country without giving them silly labels like Afrophobia, xenophobia, or ethnic mobilization? We deserve that. It's our country and we owe nobody.
Jesinta, there's an element of violence that you are being accused of as much and much. Uguti, there's violence in the streets and it's because of you. Is much and much perpetuating violence?
Look, I feel like I'm tired of explaining myself because there's a police station today, right? Brother who was here says they went to the police station to open cases. We went to that same police station and asked them to show us the case numbers that they claim they opened. They don't have cases that they've opened. So you come onto a platform, I'm used to it, Shem. I've dealt with foreign nationals for a very long time. The first thing they'll do in any situation is want to be victims. And once they see a camera, my goodness, they light up. They'll start crying and have babies on their backs and start demanding. I've dealt with social development who told us that they no longer cater for South African children who need social welfare, because foreigners are coming from wherever and dropping their children so that we can take care of them, because they know that our rights are protective of children. So the guy who was saying that our laws are a problem is correct, but I also feel like it's not just the laws, it's the people enforcing the laws that are a problem. Because I'm just going to wrap up, I've been blabbing for too long, but how it's supposed to work is that Parliament is supposed to be the ones that are adopting policies that are in line with what the South Africans that vote for them want. And then the courts are supposed to reinforce that. But currently in South Africa, it's not that. The courts are making judgments that go against the very will of the South African people. And that's why we find ourselves here. Judges misinterpreting the law and saying certain things because some of them feel like it's xenophobia.